This is the Greyhorn Pagans Podcast, a podcast hosted and produced by the tribe of the Greyhorn Pagans, the frontrunners in the pagan revival. On this podcast, we discuss all matters paganism, witchcraft, mysticism, and mythology. We thank you all for joining us once more, and welcome to the Greyhorn Pagans Podcast. Okay, welcome all. Welcome back to the Greyhorn Pagans Podcast. That's too dark. I want to get a bit of a green color in, since we will be talking about herbs and herbalism and natural medicine and all. And yeah, I think this should be a good brand color for this show. For all those listening later on, sorry you can't see it. For all of those watching, how do you like it? My guest should be on shortly. Apparently some computers have a bit of an issue with StreamYard, so she is downloading Google Chrome real quick, which should resolve it. My guest for today is the Fit Herbalist. I absolutely love the name, and we will have a chat about, of course, natural medicine, herbalism, holistic healing, the pharmaceutical industry, maybe a little bit about how much damage it has actually done, and if pharmaceuticals actually equate to medicine, because that's something that I really don't believe in. I think that, for everything that nature has caused, everything that came out of Pandora's box, if you will, to keep it a bit mythological. We are still on a pagan podcast, of course. Like every disease, every ailment, whatever, I do believe there should be a natural remedy for it. So that's why I invited Samantha, the Fit Herbalist, to come on the show to discuss this with us, with me, I guess. Well, us, we're all in this together. Health is something that's that's important for everyone, and especially since we're still dealing with the after effects of the whole first 10 minutes. I got to be a little bit careful about what I'm saying, because YouTube is limiting my videos, limiting the ad revenue, and it's not like I'm making big money of it already. So yeah, but since we're still dealing with the after effects of the whole pandemic, scamdemic, however you want to call it, medicine and the pharmaceutical industry and all, it's a thing that perhaps now is more important than ever. We all know what the years from 2020 on have been used for. Not the best things, but still, for some people, it didn't make them more health conscious. So even if the whole, thing that supposedly spread around
like may or may not be real, may or not actually be what's going on, what has been making us sick. Um, at least like the washing of the hands and the coughing in the, well, they said the elbow, but I worked as a chef for 11 years. I worked as a cook for 11 years, not a chef. I've actually made it as chef. Made it as sous chef, not chef. But preferably the shoulder, because, elbows, um, it's still contacting a lot of stuff. Like, how does the elbow? Doesn't matter. Shoulder. That's what I've learned in the kitchen. Okay. And, if you got to be clean anywhere, it's in the kitchen. But still, some people just, sneeze openly, cough openly, cough in their hands, do anything. So, health consciousness, I'm not sure if it has improved. And I see that my guest has made it to the studio, online studio for now, but we will have an actual podcasting studio one day. I do promise you. So, welcome, Samantha. Thank you for joining us. Glad you could. That StreamYard was still letting you join.
Yeah, I had to download Chrome, so I'm sorry.
No, that's perfectly fine. I was just kind of trying to fill the time while I was waiting for you. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Introduce yourself to the good people. The Fit Herbalist. It's a banging name, by the way. I absolutely. It's a good name. So.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like there is a gap in a lot of the fitness world, and so I wanted to bring like a more natural approach to fitness and how it can be a really good balance. You don't have to obsess over it. But just to start off, I'm Sam. I'm actually an ex-nurse. Used to work in ICU. Born and raised in Louisiana, so it's the south part of the States. My passion has always just been to really care for people, to learn so much information from all kinds of, when it comes to lifestyle, when it comes to eating, nutrition, just philosophy. All these things are very much a passion of mine. But I will say I was so young when I became a nurse, and I was becoming a mom at the same time. So life was a bit overwhelming, and I let that blind me for a while. And what restored me is actually my autoimmune disease. Between my daughters, they both each had one, and I had one as well. We didn't get them all at the same time, but it was about every 2 years. And then, so that's what initially sparked our revival, is what I call it, because it brought us back to where we are meant to be. So it was a spiritual awakening. It was physically demanding, mentally demanding, but it was so, I don't know, it was just such a restorative time. And, things just keep getting better and better.
Well, good. Being a mom and a nurse at the same time, two incredibly hard jobs. So I do imagine your physical health taking a bit of a toll in those days. Like I know that when I'm starting something new or take too little time for myself, I definitely notice it in my health. So you're from a fitness background. That's getting more and more out there, really, especially now with the whole everybody seems to be natural, but is pushing some kind of some kind of supplement and some kind of even natty steroids and all, and those people. As you said, fitness, it should be about health. Those people are far from healthy. So And I literally just watched a video about someone like trying different kinds of pre-workouts. So let's kind of start there because that's some chemical stuff. Like, should you need pre-workouts, or is just a cup of coffee enough, or do you like just live on character?
It's up to the individual, and I guess it depends on how your day was. Like, were you at work all day and now you're going to work out? You might need something to kind of help you. I have just been using cordyceps mushrooms and beetroot powder for a while, but we actually just launched our pre-workout. So I will say it's up to you, but I would go for the minimal amount of what you feel like you need. Of course, like helping your body get that vascular pump, help with muscle growth, that is important. So I think having a pre-workout is beneficial. It's hard to find a clean one. So you just pretty much you can add like matcha to it, and that's a really good sustainable caffeine without having a crash and make you feel jittery. So we add that too. Cinnamon's another good one to help with circulation. So just anything like that and a little caffeine should help you get the pump that you need and the energy you need to focus.
Cinnamon, even. So it's not just for for on toast.
Yeah, cinnamon's really good. It's good as just a cinnamon tea. You can have it at night too, but it's good for circulation. So always say that one's really good and warming, so it's a good additive.
So how did you get into the the whole herbal plants lifestyle? I mean, as a nurse, you're dealing with all kinds of pharmaceuticals, all kinds of prescription drugs, but still you believe in the more herbal, holistic kind of thing. Like, doesn't that clash with each other?
Yeah, and that's why I didn't want to stick around anymore, and I left that job. It was very scary to leave a career you've dedicated your whole your early 20s and to learn and everything. But when we got really sick, I started researching, and I really actually started as a holistic nutritionist because I started healing my daughter with her juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. I don't know if you've heard of that, but
I'm a little familiar with it.
Yeah. So I mean, essentially, I just restored her health with total lifestyle and diet change. And then when I had a diagnosis, I'm a lot older, so I'll taste things that necessarily I couldn't get her to taste because she was so tiny and she was a super picky eater. So I was like, let me do some research. And one of the first things that really were brought to me were medicinal mushrooms. And I started taking medicinal mushrooms as teas. And that's really my herbal journey began with mushrooms. So
mushrooms seem to be like really the gateway thing for a lot of people. Like I've heard on many other podcasts and many other people that I have spoken with over the years, is that they'll like slowly start to replace things with mushrooms. For example, I know that apparently some mushrooms can be like a great meat replacement. I mean, like I've tried the whole vegan thing for a few years, well, maybe not even. But I ended up severely malnourished. But I think that was mostly because I was eating all the like the replacement stuff. So like I wanted to have the experience of meat, but not actually have it be meat.
Yeah.
So, and I've heard that like in so many spiritual beliefs and spiritual circles and whatever, people are vegan and vegetarian, and They say that it's like really spiritually enlightening because, clean body and all. But like, is it a viable option to be vegan nowadays, like without the fake meats and, with groceries being so ridiculously expensive?
Yeah, I mean, you would probably have to live in a very tropical area to kind of sustain that. To have fresh fruit all the time, fresh produce.
Well, unfortunately, the Netherlands really isn't tropical.
Yeah, so yeah, and to each their own, but I've tried as well, but I'm definitely, my body needs meat. And there are people that say, you can't be enlightened or you can't be cleansed by eating meat. I think that's just a false statement, because we all have ancestors from all over the world, and a lot of them ate meat, but a lot of them were very spiritual and very enlightened. So that is, to me, very far from the truth. Of course, like what you do on a daily basis, who you surround yourself with, how much time are you spending indoors and in front of a screen, all these have effects on our enlightenment, our pineal gland, our third eye. All of that disconnects us, and poisons do too. And in order for us to get rid of toxins, we should be detoxing and cleansing our body daily. It should be a ritual. Our morning should be a ritual. Our afternoon after lunch should be a ritual, like walking, having some tea right after you eat. All these things, we've lost these for a couple generations in the US. I don't know if it's like that everywhere else, but it's very much like we're picking up a lot of old, like, pieces of things that we didn't even know. Like, my grandparents didn't know anything about, like, really gardening or herbs or anything. I mean, it was all just store-bought foods, and that was it. And they just worked hard, with their jobs or whatever. But, like, there was no true intention to having medicines every day except coffee. Yeah, so that's just stuff that we are having to restore, and really be intentional about it again.
So, like, but talking about your grandparents' age, and I mean, I think we're like around the same age, but like produce, like everything was still, well, a lot fresher back then. Maybe genetic modification wasn't as much of a thing yet. Like, I don't really know when that really started kicking off, but it seems to be like the last, I don't know, 10 years maybe, it's really, becoming a increased problem. So, and working hard at their jobs, like like you mentioned, most of us are sitting behind a screen all day, and now we have to buy all kinds of gimmicks like screen protectors, or like those red glass or red light kind of glasses to like protect our eyes from it. And also everything that once was natural and free and freely given, now we have to have some sort of a gimmick to protect us from it. Like, store-bought fruit isn't as good for you anymore. Store-bought vegetables, most of them, I would say, are sprayed with some kind of pesticide. So how do we do that? Do we just grow our own food? Like, should we go back to that, or is there a way that we can stop those major conglomerations of poisoning us? Or
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of that's out of our control. The policies, I really don't even know how these policies came about, or how they stay around, because it's very political, of course. And like, I made a tweet today about how the poisons are their solutions to our problems, global warming. So let's spray chemicals in the sky and make the sun not as bright. Or, your baby's born and your baby's going to be sick if you don't give them these poisons. Then they end up being sick. So their solutions create the problems, unfortunately, and we can't get away from it all. So I'm more about let's empower people with what we have. If you can't grow your garden right now, then do the best you can buying organic. But when you do have your foods, make sure they're as whole food as you can get, as close as the earth you can get, like potatoes, berries, even if they are from the grocery store, you're still better off doing that versus eating processed foods. I know that just from experience because it can be expensive. It can be time consuming. I haven't always had a garden and all these things, and I still was able to restore my health tremendously. So it is about, organic, non-GMO, but there's some things you can't control and there's some things you can't afford. I say just don't obsess over it. It's too much. Don't live in fear and do what you can with what you have. And you'll get there eventually. And then the more you grow and the more you spiritually cleanse yourself from the westernized way of living, the more doors open up. You end up having more creativity and more opportunities that arise, or more freedom, because maybe you had low self-worth, but once you started healing yourself, you blossom into this other person, and then you have this whole other passion, mission, business idea, job idea that's going to free up your time. And then there you go, now you can have your own garden. So all these things end up working out in your favor as long as you take action and you just keep chipping away at it.
Yeah, because I know that my wife recently has gotten pretty sick, and some of the medicine or pharmaceuticals, I guess I should say, we can get into that a little later, because I don't agree with the notion that pharmaceuticals are necessarily medicine. But one of the things she got prescribed, let's just put it that way, was actively making her sick. And instead of scrapping that medicine or giving her something else, the doctor just told her, well, we can give you something so that you don't feel as sick when you've taken the other medication. So, we're going to prescribe you one other thing to counter the effects of the one thing that we already prescribed you. And I got pretty mad about that, actually. I've been on different kinds of medication from the time I was 6 till the time I was 20. So my experiences with the pharmaceutical industry and all are not the best. But I'm of the belief that whatever is making us sick, whatever came out of Pandora's box, if you will, that nature has provided us with some sort of natural medicine for it. Do we need the pharmaceutical industry? Is it are we at the point that we can't live without it?
I would say majority. Yeah, I think so. I mean, of course, there are times where we need acute care, like if we break an arm or we get in an accident or something, we might need surgery. And when they do surgery, you're going to need an antibiotic, that sort of thing. So there's still room for an appreciation for
Mm-hmm.
that advancement of medicine, but it's to the point where it's consumed with more of the chronic patients and the chronic need, because that's where their money's at. So, and
Yeah.
that's where that is a revolving door. Like, how can we keep people coming back for more, and a sick nation or a sick world is very weak. It's very easily manipulated. Or it's just like the people are too sick and don't have the energy to do what they need to do to, help liberate the people. But if we can restore hope to the people and show them like there are ways to overcome an autoimmune disease that you've been told that you never will get rid of, or that you would need injections for or chemotherapy for. That's what my doctors told me, and I refused to accept it. So, and I restored my health. And I remember my next doctor's visit. One of my doctors he wasn't even happy for me. It was very bizarre. He was the one that was going to benefit from me having to have a monthly injection of Enbrel or Humira. And I restored my health with actually I did the autoimmune paleo diet. I don't know if you've heard of it.
I've heard of paleo, but like not that there are like even specific forms of it.
Yeah, and it was a doctor that wrote a book. Her name was Ballantyne. It started with a B.
Mm-hmm.
And she restored her thyroid and like healed herself naturally with that diet. So I bought her book. I read it front to back. It's very scientific, so it goes in a lot of detail.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, within 4 days, my symptoms were going away, and I had been battling that for a while, and with no answers, from the doctors.
And
Yeah.
your doctor, like your physician, like he actually wasn't happy about it. Like you healed yourself. I mean, that's what a doctor is supposed to do, right? They're supposed to heal you, make you feel better at whatever is causing illness, to make it go away or be as less of a hindrance in everyday life as possible.
Yeah, I think scarcity, scarcity kicks in for a lot of people, and maybe doctors like him. I know that they're not all like that, of course. I had some good doctors too that were very open, and I even educated one of them on everything that I was doing. But scarcity, maybe greed and ego, just like every other human, some people don't want to admit when they are wrong, or when hey, maybe I do need to learn something. That was a big block for him. I know it was. I could just see it and I could sense it. But, for as much as I was going through and how much pain I was in, for him to just kind of chuckle and say, okay, well, you don't need to come back to me again. And that was it. So, it's like, oh, wow, this is very eye-opening. That was one of my biggest aha moments. Like, oh, okay. And then I just kept running with the nutrition, holistic, herbs, studying all that. I even studied like breath work, how much our breath matters. And I did that, and I've been doing that for years. So I do a combination of a little bit of everything to really keep me pharmaceutical free for 8 or 9 years now. So
Wow, that's impressive.
yeah, and that's saying I had asthma as a kid. I had a lot of upper respiratory infections. And then throughout my teenage years and my early 20s, I really was getting these infections almost constantly. multiple parts of the body. So I would go to an urgent care after my long shift, and they would have to give me an antibiotic, some fluids, some steroids. And this was occurring like every couple months. So it's like every season, summer, winter, fall, spring, I was getting super sick. And that, I mean, I guess all of the toxins in my lifestyle eventually caught up with me. And it made me so sick that I was having to have like antihistamines double or triple the dose twice a day, and along with an antacid, because they help with histamine reactions as well. And I was on way too much of that, and I was feeling worse. Like my head, I didn't even feel like it was in my body. It was very foggy. I was crying on the porch and I didn't know why. I mean, there was all these things that were just like making me feel like I was falling apart. And they were just a huge Band-Aid that wasn't working anymore.
Yeah, I mean, damn, that sounds like a hell of a lot. And it just proves the saying that you need to heal twice, like once from the disease and once from the medicine.
Yeah.
I mean, I've taken, I mean, I have seasonal allergies, and I know that if I don't take an antihistamine, I do nothing but sneeze and cough all day, mostly sneezing, which just gets incredibly, annoying at some point. And I know that if I take, just one too many, because it's, like a particularly bad day, and I'm just like, well, I'll just, take an extra one. I'm already like feeling kind of, out there and whatever. And I'm strong. My body is, well, I try to keep it healthy. So I can't imagine like having to do, triple dose strength and then all the other things on top of it. I mean, that's just overkill, with, I guess, with the emphasis on kill, because it's, I mean, maybe not killing your body, but definitely killing your soul, your spirit.
Yeah. And I'm glad you kind of said that, because we can kind of pivot a little bit, because I noticed just like I was just a super stressed out mom, and my lifestyle, my job made me that way. Maybe my schedule, like I felt spread thin, and I felt guilty because I couldn't be with my children like I wanted to be all the time. And just that chronic everything, it was really like sucking the soul out of me. Yeah. And I noticed my children too, when they were really sick, you could see their spirit was attacked by the dark, by whatever you want to believe in. But it's definitely energetic, and you could see it in their eyes that they were fighting for their spirit, to be like revived. But there are kids that don't have access to the resources that I've shown my children, that grow up and they keep feeling this way and they think that's normal. So that's where there's such a big gap with education and empowering parents to really be the role model they need to be for their children, and help save their spirits, their souls, because they're so delicate, and you could definitely see it slipping away, and it's a hard thing to see. Yeah.
I mean, I know that, for example, my parents, they both had more of a mentally demanding job, especially my dad. He would, like, 60-hour work weeks were, nothing out of the ordinary for him. He'd be in the office early in the morning and come home, later in the evening. And, like later in life, I have realized that maybe that prevented me really from, prevented me like kind of bonding with my dad, and my dad like perhaps understanding what I went through. Because as a young man, as a young boy growing up, you look towards your dad for answers. But if he's always in the office, then you're left to figure out things on your own. And I mean, bad influences are they're tempting, and if nobody's going to stop you, you might as well. But I mean, now that I'm a parent myself, I have two beautiful kids and one stepchild with my wife, and I definitely now have a better understanding of my parents and what they went through, and especially the generational trauma. Like, that's also very much a thing that plays, because it's not just how I was raised by my parents, but it's how they were raised by their parents, and so on and so forth. So yeah, I try to make it a point that when I am with my kids to actually be with my kids, and nothing else really matters. And even that's hard, because they live with their mom, and I do have a full-time job. But yeah, being a parent and wanting to be there for your kids as much as you would like to, it's hard. It's definitely hard. And that's why I said that being a nurse and a new mom, I mean, those are two full-time jobs and equally hard, but on very different levels. So
Yeah. It does. Just growing up, it really does. Like, when you're an adult and you have all these responsibilities, it really does open your eyes to see like what your parents were actually doing.
yeah.
And how hard it is for the modern lifestyle, for a lot of us. Like, it shows up as rebellion. It shows up as depression, because it's fighting against everything that's natural. It's taken community out of people, and families living in distant areas, and very, very little support, you feel like, locally. So all these things can weigh heavy on our souls. And then we're working through, like you said, the generational trauma, because there are behaviors, there are things that are encoded, that are embedded, that we have to like really cleanse our body of, because if not, that cycle continues. But also appreciating like the good of each person, like your ancestors, your great grandparents, your mother. Even if you have some resentment towards some of them, most of the time you can look and they all have like some kind of positive aspect. So you can honor that, but still like say, hey, this bad behavior is, or this lifestyle or this mentality is not going to carry on past me. And just being dedicated to that mission and being disciplined to enough to really pave a new way, because it's so easy to fall and follow the rut. It's easy, but when you make your own, it's hard, and you feel like you're in the dark most of the time. But when you learn to listen to that guidance that's within, it always brings you back to something a lot better than what was in your past. And just having compassion for people that you can have resentment towards, forgiving them, forgiving yourself. And also, like, even when you feel like someone's getting on your nerves, or if it's your parents and you're trying to understand them, or have like a new love for your parents or great grandparents, imagine them as the same age as you. And it kind of opens up your mind a little bit. Or as a kid, like how would it be for me as a kid to be hanging out with a kid version of my grandparents, and then you kind of start to see, what did they go through? What molded them to this? And it kind of helps you like take a burden off of your shoulders and say, hey, I really can't control certain things that have gone on, but I can actually control what happens from now on. But it just gives you that kind of compassion and that childlike love for your grandparents without having to even resolve, if they passed on. That's what has happened to mine, and learning to restore that in the best way that you can so you can move forward, because forgiveness is such a huge thing. Guilt is a huge thing, and scarcity and fear are huge things too. So if we are able to release a lot of that heaviness, we can create a very holistic, healthy generation, multiple generations to come. So
Yeah, no, I've seen a lot of the traumas play out. Still see them playing out in my family, and I have taken it upon myself years ago to try and break the cycle. I mean, I wouldn't say I have completely succeeded in it, because I am not with the mother of my children, um, which is a good thing actually, because we weren't in a healthy relationship. So I guess I did kind of break the cycle by breaking it. I don't know. So it's complicated, but ever since, and really trying to focus on it, and know that I am a father myself. I do have a greater understanding of what my parents went through, and what they tried and what they did for me, for my brother, for my sister. And as adults, we're all just trying. I actually spoke about that on the show yesterday, that we're so often told as kids that once you grow up, you'll have everything figured out and you'll know how the world works. And then you grow up and you find out that nobody actually knows what they're doing, and we're all just trying things and throwing things against the wall, seeing what sticks.
Yeah, for sure. I tell my kids that too all the time. I said, sometimes I can't believe I'm 36. I still feel like I'm 20, and so they're just like, I can see that. And I said, none of this comes with a manual. So you really are just kind of learning as you go and you grow,
Yeah, definitely. And I like a manual. Oh man, that would be one hell of a manual. And
I wouldn't read it.
No, I was gonna say us man, we don't read manuals anyway. We just go with it. We're like, oh, we can do this.
Yeah. Do it backwards. Yeah, whatever.
Huh? Yeah, sure. If it sticks together, it sticks together. If it doesn't fall apart immediately, it's a success.
Yeah.
But I think with this, let's say new generation of parents, I'm a little younger than you. I'm 4 years younger, but so we're still the same generation. But I think with our now greater understanding and greater awakening, I think it's definitely helps us in being better parents, and making sure that the next generation hopefully doesn't have to go through the same trials and tribulations as we do, as we have already. So I try to have hope. I try to keep hope, but it's difficult.
Yeah, it is difficult. And I guess just learning to be patient with yourself and other people, especially if they're in your life and you love them, or you have a connection with them, or it's your children, being as patient as you can. And communication is such a big thing too, being very direct, but choosing a time that's not going to cause a lot of drama, hostility or anything. So that has been one of my biggest things, is actually speaking up when something bothers me, and being patient to see that change in the person. And And the more you forgive yourself and the more you care for yourself, like so much self-care, with the nutrition, the discipline to stay fit, you start to kind of radiate that light, that healing light from within. And it really does affect people around you, even if they aren't doing what you're doing. It eventually rubs off on them and they create their own way. It's not, you're not going to they're not going to be the mirror image of you, but they're going to learn how to restore health and grow. If they're willing, you will see it, sometimes it takes people longer than others, but you will see it through them and their actions and what they're doing. And even like their small spiritual awakenings at times that are different than yours. It's just all about staying the course and being patient and communicating, like being very truthful and open about everything, but coming from an opening and a loving way instead of like a defensive way, because oftentimes like analyze people so much that we become like paranoid, like, oh, it's all about me, they're mad at me, or they're doing this to get to me, and that just creates more turmoil, and that can create a lot of illness and disease too when we aren't trying to live in harmony and really take it day by day and step by step and keep taking action.
I think that's the best thing we can do, really. And you briefly mentioned this is quite a hot topic, and this is on YouTube, so we'll see how this goes. But the topic of vaccines and child vaccinations and all, I have seen pictures come by over like how much it has increased over the dozens of years. Like it started with a few and now we're up to a few dozen, I believe, and especially with the whole pandemic thing that really became a hot topic. So in your experience, in your like vaccines, do they cause more harm than they do good? Like, is it purely profit based? Is it like purely toxins? Because the excuse that you always hear is about polio, for example. I believe like that's the go-to for the pro inoculation crowd.
Yeah.
If we didn't have vaccines, then polio would still be a thing. But
yeah, well, I know just my intuition. I know that my kids were actually injured from those things. And I know I probably was too. That's why I was so sick for so long. Are there any benefits to them? In my opinion, no. Just from my own experience and my radical way of thinking, I'm like, I see things so differently than I used to. I don't think our bodies need that sort of thing to restore health or prevent illness. The best prevention is your daily life, how you feed your body, what we feed our children matters, all these things. And I will say, like, Dr. Shiva has spoken about this a few times, and to put it in the most scientific way, he does it best. So you can always maybe listen to him, maybe one of his YouTubes. But the science of vaccines, like the immune system science, is very, 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 very outdated. Like it's from the 1914s, and they haven't updated it. So they're treating your immune system with vaccines from science from 1914. So it's saying you can't question this science, and this science never changes, even though you are supposed to question science and find better and more effective ways, actually more healthier ways. But that's my opinion. And and I think it causes a lot of childhood autoimmune diseases and cancers. asthma, all these things are caused from those products.
So they're really treating us with medicine like based on knowledge from what is now 110 years ago.
Yeah, like they studied the immune system, and that's how they came up with the science for that inoculation. And they haven't really changed it. It's from what I understand.
Wow.
And yeah. So, and
yeah, no wonder everybody's getting sick from it.
Yeah, and you have to think about the times like with polio, there were a lot of very crowded cities, poor sanitation, and very poor food intake. You know, they were super poor. Like maybe they would get a slice of bread if they were lucky a day. So think about like trace mineral deficiencies. They're overworked. They were, working 12 to 16-hour days, especially like children and women were forced to work that.
And usually in like factories. So, like speaking of hard, unsanitary conditions. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, I mean, the evidence is there, but we've been told it's the other thing. But I read the book Dissolving Illusions, and that was a really good one to read, to really open your eyes to what really was the issue at that time. And anytime, and I mean, I guess anytime they see people uniting and maybe taking power back and their health back, they always create this fear of something else that's impending doom and then that's how they harm a lot of a mass amount of people at once. So
yeah, and this is a good one from Josh Chalavash. Like we something that got shared in the tribe that he found is that from Cheerios, I believe it was, like the Cheerio cereal, like that's been that's highly poisonous, like very much sprayed with all kinds of chemical goodies. So even your breakfast cereal isn't safe anymore. And I mean, I kind of joked that cereal like the cornflakes were designed to stop you from masturbating in the first place. So I guess chemically castrating everyone who eats that is just the next step. But like joking about it's more like a coping mechanism for me, because I still can't believe like those things are actually happening. And I think more so that people are still refusing to see it, refusing to believe that it's happening. I think that's the most shocking thing of all. I mean, the fact that we are being poisoned from top and from the bottom, in the air and the ground. I mean, that's pretty much a given.
Yeah.
It's been proven so many times over by people who have PhDs and people who like don't just like, even kids doing school science experiments have found things in the water, in the rainwater, that shouldn't be in there, heavy metals and all, and not the good kind of heavy metal, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But just the fact that people still don't see it or refuse to see it, like just that, I don't know. I don't understand. And that's one of the reasons why I, really wanted to have you on as a guest, because, this is your specialty. This is, what you do,
Yeah.
your work is so important in this. And
yeah, and it's really unfortunate that our food quality is just worse and worse. I don't know if you've heard like the infant formula. So like It's contaminated as well. I believe Gerber maybe was their infant formula and baby food had like heavy metals in it. And then, you take your children to the dentist, there's fluoride in everything they use there. There's fluoride in our water. And then that leaches heavy metals even more into your brain. It just like a magnet, like it's just attached to the brain. And, they'll say, the heavy metals or the toxins don't enter the blood-brain barrier. And that's all been proven pretty much, false, but it's still wide main spread. Like, oh, if you say it is, it's pseudoscience, but it's definitely not. I believe the university, Copenhagen, made like a discovery of the brain last year about a lymphatic type system in your brain. Mm-hmm. And also the receptors there, they can actually, they protect your brain vessels, and heavy metals can actually puncture those. And that's how you get like a leaky brain, where you get these heavy metals, these toxins that are not supposed to be in your brain, but they get in there, and that causes like, Alzheimer's, autism, all these things. And
because we really do see a rise in that, like Alzheimer's. I don't think I've heard, about so many people's grandparents suffering from Alzheimer's. I know that both my grandmothers actually developed Alzheimer's later in life, and it seems to be common now, even that old people get Alzheimer's. It's not just they're old, so they're forgetting things because I don't know, like lack of brain capacity or whatever. You're old, okay, you forget things, that's fine. But now all of a sudden it's Alzheimer's, and now all of a sudden, like so many children get diagnosed with ADHD, get diagnosed with autism. So there is something going on, like something isn't right, and like there have indeed been so many studies done about it. I believe they even made scans of the brain of a former Alzheimer patient, and you could quite literally see the spots where the heavy metals have nested themselves in the brain. Like it was, nothing like it should have been.
Yeah.
So it's shocking. It really is, and I think even more so is just the fact that the people who do refuse to believe it, like it's I mean, it's kind of going back to the whole COVID thing, but like my body, my choice. Unless it's about vaccines or something like that, because then, like, yeah, your body, sure, but our choice. And if you're not going to go with it, we'll just take everything from you.
Yeah. There's just, they definitely have, a strong spell on people, and it's hard to break from that. I don't know what separates people that awaken to it versus ones that don't want to accept it and start doing it. I really don't know what separates that from people.
It seems that the and this is quite a general take. I don't know if this is actually true, but it seems that the people who live those unhealthy lifestyles, who sit in front of a screen raging at whatever you're supposed to rage at this time, the current thing, whatever that may be, the ever-changing goalposts, who like only eat fast food, who only drink like soy-based milk and whatever, like the people really, really unhealthy. It's stupidly enough those people who will cry the hardest about not having your kids inoculated right at birth, or you choosing to not go for the vegan option even though it's better for you. I've even seen, like, I've actually seen it at work now. I've seen one IRL, kind of a dairy supplement kind of drink, and it literally says on the package, "This is food." Well, I'm just thinking to myself, but if you have to tell us that it's food, if you explicitly, even in the like the commercials and the posters you'll see on the bus stops and all, if you have to tell us, if you have to convince us of the fact that, don't worry, it is food, I'm very much doubting if it actually is. Otherwise, you wouldn't have to push it that hard.
Exactly. And their marketing is very clever. You can buy, like, it's in the freezer section and it says just eggs, but that's not, there are no eggs in it. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, or just meat, and it's like, I mean, that's the plant foods they talk about, right? The processing plant and all.
Yeah.
I actually got lured in. I mean, lured in is maybe not the right thing to say, but by the sports documentary. What was it again? Where you have like so many like top level athletes who are all vegan, and it proves that you don't have to eat meat and all, but not taking into consideration that they're top level athletes, so they probably have a nutritionist and access to the best stuff. They don't have to go to the Albert Heijn, do their own groceries, like they have people doing that for them.
Yeah.
But I mean, it convinced me, and I was leaner than ever, but I think that's mostly because of a huge calorie deficit. But like, I did not feel good. Like, I was gray and low energy, and like, really, as soon as I started eating, well, cheese and eggs, like just dairy and eggs, when I started eating that again, I filled up, I felt better right away. And it's so funny because the products like Just Meat, Just Eggs, they have to put the name of the product that it's supposedly replacing on there for you to buy it.
It's kind of weird, huh? To me, like, if I'm vegan, I don't want anything that's going to look like something that I'm not wanting to eat.
No, but I mean, if you lack understanding,
Yeah.
if like the only thing you really have is just your basic supermarket chain, then yeah, those are the things you'll go for.
And I guess just any fad diet, and any like force on people like that, it can't be good. There's an agenda behind it. There's division behind it. They want people to fight, like vegan versus non-vegan, or carnivore versus non-carnivore. We just need to eat real foods and eat what we feel or crave, as long as it's not like junk food all the time. Like, what is your body craving? Or even looking at what you're craving and seeing what deficit that correlates with. So like, if you crave chocolate, most of the time that's like a magnesium deficiency. I've always loved chocolate, and it come to find out, just from my own guinea pig research for myself, when I take magnesium, I feel fine. I don't even really want chocolate. Or if I have magnesium dense foods, or I have more herbal teas with higher magnesium in it, then I don't really crave chocolate like I used to. So that's a good feeling. And I'm not saying chocolate's bad. But I don't want to eat a whole bar. I'll get the healthiest dark chocolate I can now, and that's good enough, but no like Hershey or anything. And yeah, just kind of learning to listen to your body and eat what nutrient that you feel like your body's needing at that time. Seasonal eating is a good one. Like only eating what's in season. And then, there are some people out there that feel like the vegan diet is so pushed because there's an agenda to really hinder people's health. Just because if you think about it, most average people, average Joes like us, we probably wouldn't be able to sustain a vegan diet because it's hard to get the protein you need to retain the muscle that you need as we age.
Yeah.
And muscle building is one of the biggest things for your immune system, for insulin resistance. So if they can make you feel lean, but make you eat false foods and then even affect your muscle retention and your growth, then you're going to have some kind of chronic issue, hormonal dysfunction, infertility, something like that, or diabetes,
Yeah. And then they can sell you all kinds of medicine and supplementations and all. There's such a huge market for all of that. And even when you look at a lot of those supplements, if you look at the ingredient list, a lot of it really is fillers, and a lot of it you don't even need, because most of it you can get from your daily diet if you just eat your greens and eat, well, as you said, whole foods. Then everything you need you can get from your diet. But now with the whole, especially like with the whole fitness industry, that really has become like a billion-dollar industry right now. It's no longer really about fitness, unfortunately. Like bodybuilding really isn't about bodybuilding anymore. It's just like, how can we chemically enhance ourselves to maximum size, which is why so many bodybuilders are now dying off in their mid 40s. But yeah, just a daily diet. But like for a lot of people that's getting like incredibly hard. I've seen videos from, I believe, from Canada, where a pack of like 6 chicken fillets is now like half your rent. It's like I believe like 220 for 6 chicken fillets.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I think like the fast food industry, like you can also kind of connect that to it, because often like a Big Mac menu or like the Whopper menu or whatever, it fills you up. I mean, of course it does. It's all fat and carbs. And it's cheaper than an actual homemade meal. So for people who, don't have a lot to spend already, who have to watch every nickel and dime, I can imagine them rather going to Burger King and just get the Whopper meal and be satisfied and be full, than having to go to the grocery store and be like, okay, are we going to eat for just today, or like are we going to go for like are we going to go to the burger joint and have it last 3 days? Like, so
Yeah.
there's just so many things wrong with it, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I guess like if I went to like a McDonald's or something, or Chick-fil-A. If you went to one of those places, you're looking at probably at least $10 a person. So they're expensive. Fast food is getting more and more expensive. In my opinion, I don't really eat it. But and then we hunt and harvest our own meat. So actually, I feel like eating meat and rice or potatoes with a salad is so much cheaper than buying anything else like fast food or restaurant. So I guess it depends on like how easy can you get your protein source, because protein is the biggest thing. Finding local farmers and buying meats from them, maybe having a cow with your neighbors or something, that sort of thing, to really pack your freezer full of meat so you're not having to constantly go to the grocery store for that. That saves money and time and stress, and it helps you stay on track. And when you are busy, it can be overwhelming to eat healthy. But if you have rice and potatoes cooked, and if you have some kind of meat cooked, you can always throw a bowl of all of that together, or eggs and rice. That's a good one. Throw it all together and take it with you to work. Eat it cold, eat it hot, whatever it takes. And then after you eat it, you're like, oh, you feel so much better and you have so much more energy. You can feel your muscles growing and you're not like depleting your immune system in your body. And you just keep going. I mean, I don't intermittent fast. I say I do because I don't eat at night. So I'm like, technically I am,
Is that the same thing? Like you don't eat at night? Like, do we have to call
like
it fasting?
Yeah, they'll do like a 12 to 18 hour window or something like that, and not eat breakfast, not eat the morning time, and they break their fast at afternoon. Over time, that is not healthy. That's very...
No, you're depriving yourself of nutrients and calories, and breakfast, like it's quite an important meal because that really depends on how your day is going to go. A good hearty breakfast, that'll keep you going. Like no breakfast, you'll be done like 2 hours later because your body has nothing to, like, no energy source to take it from, so it'll take from itself, really.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, it's nutrient depriving. It's, it can trigger your stress hormones and that sort of thing, because if you're looking to restore health and keep health and strengthen your immune system, we've got to just focus on building lean muscle and keeping our lean muscle. And in order to do that, you have to have a certain amount of your calories. You have to have a certain amount of protein and carbs and fats. That's just the way it is. And that, to me, that is longevity. That is growing old in the most graceful way. And to me, it helps if it's really pure foods and you're having teas with it as well. You're helping that oxidative stress to, from all the chronic issues that can occur from low muscle tone and toxin intake, or exposure that we can't really control. If we're wanting to age a lot slower and more graceful, and just be really strong as long as we can, that's what we got to do. Like, it's got to be our way of life. Yeah.
And I've also heard that just some basic weight training, or just basic resistance training, also really helps with keeping the muscles strong and helps with bone density. So just pick up a couple of dumbbells, like just pick them up every now and then, do some things, and you're good. Like, not everybody has to be a bodybuilder.
Right.
And that's why I really don't like the commercial gyms here in the Netherlands. I mean, it's the focus has kind of shifted towards weightlifting, but it really, the first thing you see is just, rows and rows of cardio machines, which, I mean, I guess is fine, but it doesn't really do anything. I mean, yeah, you work up a sweat. Yeah, your body temperature raises. You'll burn some fat and all, but I mean, you're not really building any muscle with it. So, but I
Right.
mean, I've always been a bit of a jock, and I train jujitsu. So, I've always done like the very active stuff. Always hated cardio.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
I don't really like it either. I like, sprinting is a fun one for me. I like to sprint and then kind of jog, sprint. I don't want to just run long distances because that will deplete our muscles. So it's all about finding that really good balance where you weight lift, you eat good, your diet and lifestyle are the biggest things, and you weight lift a few times a week. And then you can end cardio 10 minutes, 10 to 20 minutes after your weightlifting session. And then that's pretty much what I do. And I feel good. I feel like if I had to go run to chase someone or save someone, I could if I had to. It's like I tell people, don't act like you're in the war like all the time. You're just a warrior training for a war. So for a warrior to be strong, you've got to have that sustainable lifestyle. You don't want to deplete your body in this constant state. So when you really actually need to do something, you really can't. So you're either like, so much muscle that you can hardly run, or you have like hardly any endurance because you're so depleted because you overdo cardio, or you don't eat enough, or you don't build your muscles. So it's like a marathon, you're not just trying to hurry up and get where you need to be. It's about being the most level that you can be for the longest amount of time.
yeah, and just a good diet like helps with that so much. And I've gotten into the habit of trying to buy in bulk as much as I can, because having to do your grocery shopping every week, it really gets expensive, and it really becomes a lot, especially if you're working full time, and you have to do groceries and then still make it and all. So I try to buy just kilos of rice at a time, kilos of pasta at the time, so that I at least have those two things, like literally buckets of peanut butter at a time. My wife still makes fun of me of my love for peanut butter. Can't help it. Um,
Yeah.
and I quite literally have my freezer full of chicken.
Yeah.
And frozen fruits. I've been doing a lot of frozen blueberries, because I know I need to eat a little more fruit. But when I see the prices of fresh blueberries, it's utterly insane. And I've always heard that the frozen ones are the exact same ones, just frozen.
Yeah.
So I don't understand how there's such a major price difference. Like, if I buy them fresh, I pay what, like €8 for 200 grams. If I buy them frozen, I pay, like, what did I pay? Like 5 for like a kilo. So like £2. Paid $5
Yeah.
for it. So that's really another thing. Just buy it frozen.
I know. That's what I do too. It's about the same price here. It's 3 times as much for fresh versus frozen, probably.
And is it true? Like, I've always, like, I've heard this so much that the frozen fruits and frozen vegetables are actually better for you, that they contain the nutrients a lot more because they basically get frozen right after they're picked, and the fresh stuff, like it gets picked and then shipped again and then sold, and then it's in
Yeah.
your fridge for 3 days and you toss it out because you forgot to eat it.
Yeah. I mean, I think so. I mean, for some of them at least, I do think blueberries are very good frozen. I think they do hold a lot of their nutrients. Um, and yeah, I guess like when you're buying it from the grocery store versus frozen, it probably will have more nutrients in it. That's what I've always thought. And some people say no to that, but I guess it depends on the quality and if there's any additives to the frozen bag, like butters or soy oil or anything like that, soybean oil or wheat. I don't know why they would add wheat to those things, but some of them you have to look why there's wheat in there. We have to avoid wheat. We're gluten-free just due to our issues. So you have to just make sure you look on the back and make sure that it doesn't have any extra stuff in it. And yeah, I mean, obviously, ideally, we would like to locally buy everything all the time, but that's not necessarily ideal or realistic for a lot of us right now. It'll get there.
Eventually we'll get there. I mean, the ideas of growing your own food, or at least having some kind of a small herb garden, it's getting more popular. I know that my kids, their school is like a really good school. They get a lot of freedom, do a lot of fun stuff, and also with their mom, they'll have their own like little herb garden, just these very small pots. You can buy them from just like the local store, and it'll be like their own mini greenhouse thing.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that's like those things. It's fun for the kids because they get to do something and they get what to grow and all, and it teaches them at the same time to literally grow their own food and grow their own vegetables, and in a playful manner. And I think like that's just how we learn best, by play. That's with
Yes.
everything, really.
Definitely. Yeah, we really do. Play, adventure, encouragement, just like that freedom to express it and really learn what you want at your own pace. All that really is beneficial, especially when they're, younger and even in their teenage years, not forcing so much and letting it be more fun. That's such a big thing. And I know like we should all start growing more gardens and doing that, but I guess just like try to do as like a little bit at a time. And sometimes like berry bushes or some kind of fruit tree would be good because it's like something that's going to give you fruit for multiple years. Those are easy. They're you have to wait a couple years for the fruit to be there and available for you, but long term, having some kind of fruit tree would be beneficial, and you're not having to garden every season all the time. And I think lettuce would be another good one. I would like to grow all the time, but that would require like a greenhouse for most of us, because I wouldn't be able to grow lettuce year round. But having a good salad would be beneficial. But that was like off topic, but I was like, I kind of want a little greenhouse eventually, but we'll see.
I mean, we have. I know that in my neighborhood we have like kind of communal gardens. You just pay a certain amount a year or a month, and then like whatever you grow in that garden, as long as it's nothing illegal, of course. That's entirely up to you, and those get like divided yearly. I was like too late this year. unfortunately, I know a good friend of mine. He and his family actually got one, and like maybe that's something that we should look into more as
Yeah.
well, like communal gardens. I mean, we used to be a community. We used to be, tribal people, like family, whole families living together. Which, funnily enough, now starts becoming a thing again, but mostly because of the economic crises. Like people just can't move out, so they're kind of forced to stay with their parents.
Yeah.
Um, but like, yeah, just community gardens, communal gardens. I think it's a good thing for people who like don't have their own backyard. Like if you live on the like second, third floor or whatever, then you can still like just have your like a bit of a window seal like kind of garden. There are so many
Yeah.
possibilities, and I should really start doing all that stuff myself too, because I talk about it, but I don't practice it, unfortunately. Um,
Yeah. There are only certain amount of hours in a day, so I definitely understand. It's hard to get started and it's hard to maintain it. It's a job in itself. So yeah, the community type would be really beneficial, and maybe that's something that people would be more open to. I might talk to my neighbors and community about that too. That would be a good idea.
and you briefly mentioned it, like soybean oil, like with the whole packaging thing. That's really something that is like also being pushed a lot, like the vegetable oils, like it's in everything
Yeah.
now. How dangerous or how damaging are they really? I mean, it's just vegetable oil. I mean, we use it all the time in cooking, sunflower oil, coconut oil, peanut oil. I know that in the Asian countries they use a lot of peanut oil because it's odorless, flavorless, and you can heat it up a lot higher. So, you know, why are they so dangerous?
I think it's about the processing and the exposure to chemicals, that how they process it. That's the biggest thing. Um, and the more it's stripped of its natural parts, to me, like, the worse it is. And then when you are frying stuff, like deep frying stuff, most of the time you're over consuming fats and carbs, and you're probably drinking a lot of beer with it, or something like that. So all that is like more of a combination versus just one direct issue. Um, in Louisiana, we are probably we are known for really good food. We have food unlike anywhere else on earth. And we're known for like our French type, our Creole and our Cajun type foods. And a lot of that is it's very fried, it's battered, it's fried, deep fried, and then you have veggie, not deep fried veggies, deep fried like potatoes to go with it, and then you have all this butter, and then you have like a large dessert after. So I can see how like we have probably some of the worst health in the nation just because of that lifestyle and that eating. So on it, I really think it's a combination of things. Um, but
Yeah,
I choose not to cook with any of that. I cook with avocado oil or olive oil or coconut oil, and I do use butter. But I buy it as pure as I can, unrefined as I can, and I just cook it or use that as a dressing or something. Yeah.
yeah, I've heard that, especially in the southern states. Like my wife has family there. They'll deep fry anything really.
Yeah. Oreos, Snicker bars, everything is.
Deep
Yeah,
fried
if you go to like,
Oreos? Oh God.
if you go to a fair, like when we have festivals, they'll have deep fried Twinkies, deep fried Oreos. I've never had one. It sounds really gross, but people say they are so good. But yeah.
Well, it's no
And
wonder everyone there is so rotund. Um,
yeah, I mean, I used to be an addict with all the carbs and the sugars. I can speak for that on that behalf because I used to be that, and it's very much an addiction. And the
Yeah.
more you have, the more you want, and it's rough. It's rough to put it down, but you eventually get to the point where you don't even want it anymore. It's pretty amazing how your taste buds can change when you really cleanse your whole body and your palate. So
Yeah.
everything, you almost are unrecognizable to a lot of people because it's so extreme.
Yeah, I remember last time I was in the States visiting my wife. Like she still lives there, unfortunately, because moving is just such a hassle and so expensive. Um, like I of course tried some things. She had me try sweet tea. She still doesn't shut up about it because I took a sip and it took a moment for the sugar to hit me, and boy, that's just, and it wasn't even like true southern sweet tea. Like she told me it can, like, her, I believe her grandmother made it like even sweeter, and I was just like, no, this is way too much already. And like also, um just the amounts of salt in food. Like I could drink like gallons of water, but it wouldn't be enough. And
Yeah, that's a good point you brought up. Those are like two of the biggest things that are definitely overused, and it's the table kind, like the iodized salt that's super processed and it's not really salt, so it's really bad for your health.
yeah, I mean, I thought we had, processed stuff here in the Netherlands, like here in Europe, and then I tried some American cuisine or Americanized cuisine, and I mean, I started to understand why everyone is larger around the waist area, and
Yeah,
why America, unfortunately, is the most obese country in the whole world. Because if you're eating that on a daily basis, and I know that unfortunately too many people are, uh, yeah, that'll do damage to your body, and you can like exercise how much you want if you're building your body on fat, carbs, sugar, and salts. Like it doesn't really matter what you do.
yeah, yeah. It's definitely a losing battle if you don't change the way you eat, and it is unfortunate. And there's, I guess sometimes you get humbled by chronic illness, and at some point, most people will eventually, and some people still won't change the way they eat. They will know that they need to change, but they just don't want to because they love food. They love that food and they are attached to it. And it's hard to see people that you love continue to do that to their bodies. But that's where like letting go comes in. You just got to lead by example and not really worry about it because the answers are there, the community, the support's there. It's just up to that person to really commit to themselves and restore health. And there are healthier ways to consume the foods that you love. I know I make a healthier gumbo, I make a healthier jambalaya, all these things that we love in Louisiana, I just make healthier, and it really tastes great. I mean, you don't know that you're not eating. Eventually you do, I guess. But I mean, even people that are still eating that love my gumbo. So there are ways to make it that the way you like it, and that craving or that comfort from your childhood, if you want it, just get creative and create it from natural ingredients, real salt, no fake crap. And then there you go. You have a healthy version of the food that you love that's actually nourishing your body, not causing inflammation. So,
and it really is that easy. Just use natural ingredients, all natural stuff, and yeah, it'll cost a bit extra, but I mean, if you take all the cheap stuff, then later in life you'll spend that anyway, just on medication and doctor's visits and whatever. And trust me, that's you'll regret not spending the little bit extra. And with chronic illnesses and all, hey, if you can defeat it by just eating healthy and sticking to a healthy diet and healthy lifestyle, I mean, it's possible. You've done it. You've done it with your with your daughter, and it really is a testament to what a healthy lifestyle and healthy diet can do.
Yeah, and that you have to get it in your mind that you want it more than anything, and the discipline never leaves. The motivation leaves me the more busy I get. I know I'm not motivated all the time, but being dedicated to that, not only for myself but for my daughters, and just being a strong support, a strong person, leave a legacy of like strength, love, endurance, resilience. That's the ultimate, to me, goal as a parent, because it will equip them with the knowledge, the wisdom, the confidence they need to face all of other life's obstacles, and not let health be one of those. Let them know how to like if a lot of us didn't have to care or backtrack and heal so much, we would have had so much more creativity and power and energy to actually do other things versus backtracking or trying to restore health. Like we've got to restore health, prevent illness, and that way we can make a large impact from here on. And that to me is like the ultimate quantum revival for our lifetime. So we got to make that leap, and we are the generation of really transformation, and in order to do that, we can't just do spirit, we can't just do physical body, we've got to do it all, because it's all needed. So
all three planes: the physical, the mental, and the spiritual.
Yeah, definitely. And but
I think sorry, no, go on.
Oh no, I was just gonna ask. You go for it.
Yeah, no, I think this is a very powerful way of closing out the show. I want to thank you very much. Thank you so much for coming on, for for telling your story, and for helping helping me and my audience understand better how to take care of your personal health, because it's such a big issue nowadays, and there's so much just so much to do with it. And still people just believe in things that they really shouldn't believe in. So just where can the people find you? Plug your stuff real quick.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. It was really great. I love what you're doing, and keep doing it. And definitely, I guess y'all could find me on Twitter at the Fit Herbalist. And you can literally find all my other links there, or you can DM me. So just Twitter. But if you're not on Twitter, I do have a website. It's called the resethealthandfitness.com. So you can go there and you can always message me or email me from there, read my blogs. They're very health related. And yeah, just keep pushing forward, take your health into your own hands. And it's really what we have control over the most. And it's going to impact a lot of lives, not just your own. So.
Awesome. Thank you. I've made sure to put up some links in the description box down below already. Of course. Thank you again for coming on, and for everyone else, of course, who has been watching. Everyone who shared their stories and shared their comments in the live chats. For all of those watching, don't forget to like the video, share it with as many people as you can, because this is so incredibly important. Leave something nice in the comments, leave your own story in the comments, your own health tips. I mean, this episode is about health anyway, so leave some health tips in the comments, because why not? Check out everything that we do on the Tribe of the Greyhorn Pagans at our website, www.greyhornpagans.com. And go check out Sam. Go check out her stuff. What she does is so incredibly important, because physical health, it impacts your mental health, it impacts your spiritual health, it impacts so many things. So thank you all, and until next time.